All right, so we're just going to do an impromptu Coops Cold Hard Facts, and we're going to talk about what this really is, Russ. Because in my opinion, this goes way beyond anything that's about personality or Trump or anything else. We're seeing the culmination of a long game, in my opinion, Russ. We're looking at basically a playbook. This is the playbook of leftism at its finest. So, folks, we'll talk through this for podcast only, folks. We'll have this up as a separate video and on the video. But let's take a look at the leftist playbook and tell me, Russ, and tell me, folks at home, or listening to this in your cars or in the park or wherever you're at in your hot yoga class in your hot yoga pants. I can only dream, right? That we have people doing that listening to our podcast. Tell me if this doesn't remind you of some things that might be going on. So, leftist playbook. And I'm sorry to read the slides, but I'm doing this for the podcast, folks. Infiltrate and assimilate influential non-governmental institutions such as the education, media, and entertainment systems. I think we're there. We've been on a slow slide of this.
Been there for a while.
Been there for a while, we've been on a very large slide of this since the 1960s. Certainly, Hollywood before that was heading. It was in that direction, but certainly in the education and media. Allow passive invasion to create dependence in a large voting base. We have an wide open border. We've had a shit border forever. It got better under the Trump administration. But what we are facing, Russ, and please tell me if I'm wrong with this, is we've allowed basically, and not even passive, I think that's a wrong word to use. It's been an invasion.
Yeah, well, as Dinesh D'Souza pointed out, immigration without assimilation is invasion.
Yeah, he did say that. I try not to quote him too much, but but he's right. He's right. Create dependent and victimized lower class and minority population. Oh my goodness, Corolla famously says, "I guess we have no more problems when we call certain things racism in this country." But I thought we got away from that for a while because things got a lot better.
We did until Obama was elected.
It is everything. Race is everything. Sexuality is everything. We have a dependent, victimized lower class, and the young people that have grown up with this atmosphere in the Obama administration, now Biden administration, have bought into this. That everybody.
Real quick, a lot of folks, when we elected Barack Obama, some folks breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Okay, we've elected an African American president. We are past our racism. We can move past it." However, I believe Barack Obama very cynically used our inflamed passions to intentionally make race relations worse, to divide so that he can, so he could use a victimized mentality among some to keep him in power. Because when people feel like victims, they will look for those who will advocate or fight on their behalf as victims. And so it's much easier to control people when they think that they are being taken advantage of.
I'd encourage anybody to look at the writings and videos of Thomas Sowell in particular. And even folks like who's more media culture, Larry Elder, some of the Black leaders in the community who speak on this very behalf, that they've been duped, that they've allowed themselves to be controlled and victimized, and that the left, the rich white guilty liberals are, I'm just going to say it, are the new plantation owners. They are the modern plantation owners in this country. They really are. In every sense of the emotional and spiritual and financial world, they are. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's I don't. The problem is that, well, not the problem. A problem is that, like you mentioned, everything is being labeled as racist or sexist or bigoted, which means that it loses any sting it ever had. I don't know if you saw the headline. I believe it was in the Atlantic, which talked about Hispanics in the country, and it said the rising minority voices of white supremacy. And I'm like, I was baffled. I'm like, this makes no sense that you're labeling Hispanics and Black conservatives and even Asians based on the affirmative action cases that are coming up as voices of white supremacy.
It's insane.
Because, they've used that label though, because ever since I was a kid, the worst thing you could possibly be labeled was a racist. And so they've used it to try to club and shame people into compliance, but it's just gone on so long now that it no longer has any power because people are like, well, you're going to call me racist no matter what I do.
Absolutely. Let's hit a couple more planks real quick to get through this on the leftist playbook. Deny all objective morality and truth. Attack institutions such as faith, church, and traditional family.
That's in effect.
Has been for a while, and it's completely in effect now. I saw something on Facebook today earlier where I guess there was a drag show fairly locally, and there was out in the public at a public park in a town that's about 20 minutes from here, and everybody's there. Well, you should have to be 18 plus to go to church. I love who we've become as a country. Oh, far more kids are molested by the public education system than by the church, by the way. So why doesn't that apply to
it? Doesn't get the publicity, so people think it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. Censor rational thought and dissent. Right out of the leftist playbook, right out of it. Gee, folks, is that happening in this country? What do you think, Russ?
I don't know. Boys are girls, girls are boys. It's being censored to say that biological sex means something. We've talked about dissent. I remember I don't remember the guy's name, but from Mumford and Sons, who promoted Andy No's book on Antifa, was kicked out of his band and canceled.
Yep.
There's the pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays who re-emphasized the lesson: never apologize to the mob, because he said something supporting people of faith and thoughts about Pride Month, and he got such pressure he apologized for it, and then he came out on the field and got booed by the fans, and the Toronto Blue Jays cut him. Yeah,
Amazing.
dissent is not allowed, because dissent is seen as an attack on someone's person, not on someone's ideas. I don't know if you've watched recently a guy I've become a real big fan of named Konstantin Kisin.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Absolutely.
He brought up, and I didn't know this, but he brought up that the term politically correct originally came out of the Soviet Union. It wasn't about protecting people's feelings. It was a way of saying, well, what you're saying is right, but we don't like hearing it.
Right.
And it was politically incorrect in the Soviet Union to bring stuff up, and he's horrified to see that being imported over the West. One last thought on the censoring rational thought, and this is again another stat from Mr. Kisin. It hasn't happened in the United States yet, although I think folks are going to try to bring it here. All right, first of all, do you know how many folks in Russia were jailed for what they posted on social media a couple years ago?
I have no, I do not.
About 400. Do you know how many people in Britain were jailed during the same year for what they posted on social media?
No.
Roughly 3,300.
Oh my God.
All over 8 times the number of people that were imprisoned in Russia were imprisoned in Britain based on what they said on social media, including
God, my God.
Yeah, including people. I mean, again, it's one of the reasons we have guns, is to stop the government from trying to censor what you can say.
You know, I was listening to did you listen to the recent I don't know if it was Shapiro what, but when they were doing the 1 anniversary of Matt Walsh's What is a Woman documentary?
I am aware of that, and yeah, I mean, it took Elon Musk himself, the billionaire head of Twitter, to step in and stop the activist minions from actively censoring that broadcast.
One of the there was the horrible thing about listening to that podcast that was reviewing it. They were interviewing what they called a bunch of heroes from the documentary, which is a huge documentary, by the way, and it is available on Twitter. But the bad thing about it is it was emceed by Michael Knowles, who I can't stand. So that was bitter fruit for me to listen to that particular pod. But the guy that's one of the heroes of that is a Canadian who refused to call his transitioning daughter he by the personal pronouns, and has already spent 6 months in jail, and is facing trial for an additional 3 months in jail. Literally got jailed for not using the proper pronouns. That's an actual true story, black and white, in Canada. That has happened.
Yeah, in Canada, that's one of the things that Jordan Peterson has been fighting against is the compelled use of pronouns. Now they're not saying here's something you can't say. They're saying here's something you have to say.
Yep.
And so compulsion of speech is a very nasty, authoritarian thing to do.
That's
why I'm hoping eventually Pierre, I think his name is Pierre Poliver, I believe is his name. I don't remember exactly. But the opposition leader in Canada needs to come to power in Canada, and undo what Justin Trudeau has done, because Justin Trudeau has made Canada. It's not good.
No,
It
he's
just
a
isn't.
fascist. He's a fascist leader up there. He's a fascist. Period.
Yep.
Let me get to the last couple bullets here. Groom the children, and by that I don't even mean necessarily what we talk about grooming for transgender, but I mean literally groom the children for leftist thought. Plow them.
Indoctrination, which happens through the education, entertainment, and the media.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, lock up the opponents and dissenters, which happened in every single culture, leftist fascist culture that we can my God, under the Stalin, under Hitler, and much horrible things worse than that. Not just lock them up, but literally commit genocide against dissenters and opponents, have them murdered, have them assassinated. But we'll just leave it at lock up the opponents. So I don't know about you, my friend, but I'm looking at this list, which fits very, very well with a lot of historical leftist ideology, strategy, playbook. But really, when we get down to it, Russ, who does this sound like in history? Well, it definitely sounds like that guy. We're looking at a picture of Mr. Stalin himself. It definitely looks like that guy who everybody reveres as the worst dictator in history, which I would argue the guy to his left or anatomical right of the slide in many ways committed higher atrocity numbers. It also looks like these guys.
Yeah.
We're talking the fucking Borg here in this country is in charge, Russ. So
Yeah. I'm
I
thinking of Picard's speech on the Borg ship where he says, where they shout out, freedom is irrelevant, self-determination is irrelevant, you must comply.
exactly. So like I like to say, boom, you're welcome.